There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key. There's treasure in the trees. The time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. This is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There are 200 billion dreams. Anyone of this is able to begin a spark and change the world. There's innovation everywhere, from Abba to Ife to Kaduna. The land is green, the wealth is here. Yeah, this is our nation, this is our land. Yeah. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here.
If you take a look around, from the north to south, there are opportunities to make it here. But if all you ever dream is to go overseas, tell me how you'll ever know that wealth is here. Oh, yeah, oh.
This is our nation, this is our land. Oh, Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. So pass on the baton, pass on the torch. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. Oh yeah. So this is our nation, this is our land. Oh yeah. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the day 3 of the Business of Agriculture Masterclass 2.0. We will be discussing agrofinance, focusing on leveraging finance to scale growth and mitigate challenges. My name is Damilare Olaniyan, and I will be your moderator for this session. Just as in other businesses, finance plays a crucial role across the stages of agribusinesses. Funds are needed to secure space to practice agriculture and purchase seeds, fertilizers, hatchlings, or feed. Funds also come in handy in other processes like hiring workers, processing goods, and general logistics, among others. To remain competitive in the agri sector, practitioners must master the process of raising finance to fund their agri businesses. The government of Nigeria, along with several private bodies and NGOs, have created platforms to empower agri practitioners in the country. The CBN's Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund, ACGSF, is an example of such platforms. ACGSF offers farmers loans of up to 1 million naira for individuals or up to 10 million naira for cooperative societies or corporate entities. However, platforms like ACGSF have requirements farmers must meet if they wish to benefit from the platform. What are these requirements? And how can farmers present themselves to benefit from various empowerment schemes? In this session, I will be joined by agrofinance experts, and together we will dig deep into their wealth of experience and provide you with detailed context on the opportunities available, best practices to adopt, key business strategies to employ, and possible challenges faced in the journey to raise finance to scale your agri businesses. We will go on a short break now, and when we are back, we'll go deeper into the agrofinance value chain in Nigeria. Welcome back. So before we go into the panel discussion, I'll give just a short overview of the financial aspects of agriculture in Nigeria. Nigeria agriculture is the largest sector in the country due to its contribution to the nation's GDP. In 2014, the sector achieved a GDP of 113 billion US dollars. And when we look at the financing in agriculture, so what are the models, the traditional models of getting finances in and getting financing in agriculture? So we have government funding, like I mentioned earlier. The federal government of Nigeria financing and risk management strategies to support development of agricultural sector include the Anchor Borrowers Program, commercial the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme, as well as the establishment of the Nigerian Incentive-Based Risk Sharing for Agricultural Lending. That's NASA, right? NASA. Then we have several states governments have also developed some strategies, right, in financing agriculture within the states. We also have funding from financial institutions. And according to the National Bureau of Statistics, credit to the agricultural sector was 3.36% of the total credits to the private sector in 2017. So that means we get finance from private investors too. Funding also come from development partners such as the African Development Bank, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, the Food and Agriculture Organization as FAO, amongst others. There are also private investors as well as tech-enabled commodity exchange. So let's go on a short break. All right, thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, to help you to better appreciate agrofinance, I'll be talking to a panel of experts. I will take a deeper dive into the opportunities available, best practice to adopt, key business strategies to employ, like I mentioned earlier. And our first panelist today is the head of agribusiness banking for Stanbic IBTC Bank, Mr. Wale Oshin. Mr. Wale, you're welcome. Our next panelist
Good
is
morning,
Miss.
Damilari, and
Good
thank you very
morning.
much.
Good to
Good
see
morning,
you.
everyone.
Good morning. I'm looking forward to this session. Now, our next panelist is Miss Vera Eboon. She is the head of agribusiness and product development for Sterling Bank PLC. You're welcome, Miss Vera.
Good morning. Thank you very
Good
much.
morning.
Good morning,
Yeah,
all.
good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Pleased to be here.
Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Mr. Obaro M. Osaz. Mr. Obaro M. Osaz is the DGM of Bank of Industry. Okay, I think you'll be joining us soon. Then our next panelist is Miss Alima Yaya Abubakar. Miss Alima Yaya Abubakar. She is the head of the strategy and planning developments for NASA Microfinance Bank.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here.
Good morning. I'm excited to see you. Good morning.
Thank you. All right.
Our final panelist this morning is Ms. Anuli Jinika Ijoma. Ms. Anuli, I can see you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you,
Good morning.
Damilare. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So Ms. Anuli is the head of the credit and marketing head of credit and marketing department for NASA Microfinance Bank. So you're welcome. So I welcome all panelists to the session on leveraging finance to scale growth. Going forward, I'll be asking you specific questions on the best practices in agrofinance to give the audience useful insights into the world of finance for agribusinesses. All right, so I'm going to be starting with Mr. Wale. Mr. Wale, are you there?
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
right.
I'm here.
Oh, great.
Good
Yeah,
morning
good to see
again.
you.
Morning, everyone, again.
Good morning. So when we talk about agrofinance, right? So what do we really mean when we say agrofinance, especially for anyone out there? So I like to mention that our audience can just group them into three. We have those who are retired, right, who are looking to invest in agriculture. We have young professionals who want to do agriculture on the side. Then we have those who are just coming up and say okay, they have money and say okay, they really want to go into agriculture because a lot of people are talking a lot about agriculture. So when we say agrofinance, so what do we really mean when we say agrofinance, Mr. Wali?
Okay, thank you very much, Damilare. In simple terms, agricultural finance is the procurement of capital and the use of that capital for the purchase of production, processing, and marketing of agricultural products. Right? And we can also say that it entails the provision of funding, across the agribusiness value chain, and this ultimately helps to stimulate economic growth. Right? Maybe as we go along, we will expatiate on or talk more about the two terms I've mentioned, agriculture and agribusiness. But I think let me put it at that for now. Thank you. Sorry, I'm not sure if the audio issues from my side. I can't hear you, Damari.
All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Wali.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that. All right, so I'll now be directing my question to Ms. Alima. All right, so I'll now try to direct my question to Ms. Alima, and I would say that there are opportunities there in agriculture. There are opportunities they are there, but when we look, someone says that when you stand on top of a mountain, you don't see the mountain. All you see beneath your feet, right, is the depths. You just see soil, right? So, what are these opportunities, right, that are there for raising funds in the agricultural sector in Nigeria, Ms. Lima?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay,
I
because
can.
I couldn't hear you for a while. Your
Okay.
line just went off. Yeah. But let me tell you, my name is Halima Abakar, as you all know, and I'm heading the strategy planning department of National Microfinance Bank. I'll give you a brief background of what we do and the mandate of our bank. The mandate of our bank is to address the challenges of extending financial services to persons and families at the bottom of the economic pyramid in Nigeria and build on the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, which targets 95% financial inclusion by 2024. So we are leveraging on the NIPO's offices nationwide and also using technology to promote greater outreach with the backing of NASL PLC's credit de-risking infrastructure in agricultural value chain. So we have a platform that you can access a lot of products, both the intervention products and our own balance sheet products. And my colleague, Ms. Anuli, who is heading our credit and marketing, is the process owner. So she will go into the technicalities of how best you can access all our products. We have our own balance sheet products, and the products are the SME product, which is a high ticket product. Is You can get as much as 250 million naira from that product. And then we have also the agricultural credit guarantee scheme facility, and the product under that is the NMFB Agrifinance facility. You can get up to 50 million as corporate and 1 million as an individual. So we have other products as, like salary advance, the petty cash now, and the consumer asset finance facility. Then you all are aware of our intervention products, the Aximis, which is the Agribusiness Small Medium Enterprise. You can get as much as 10 million, but there are other processes to those products, the Anchor Borrowers Program and the Targeted Credit Facility, which is the COVID. We have SME COVID, the targeted TCF, and the household, which is for the individual. So my colleague, Ms. Anuli, will go into the nitty-gritty of accessing all our products. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that breakdown, Ms. Alima. So I couldn't see your video. I don't know if you can put on your video now. Can you put on your video? Also, Ms. Anoli. Okay, can you put on your video too?
Sorry about that. Okay, can you see me now?
I can see you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, so then I'll be directing my next question to Ms. Anoli, right? And Ms. Alima has told us that there are opportunities there, right? And she gave us the data there. So I'd like to ask, so what are the steps? What are the steps to take, right, in actually assessing these opportunities, Ms. Anoli?
Right. Thank you, Damilari, for your questions, and thank you, Halima, for the intro. Like Halima has said, we have quite a number of products, but strictly speaking, I'll start with the AGSMIS, which is the Agribusiness SME intervention scheme that is administered by us for the Central Bank of Nigeria. So that is supposed to address the problems of agric financing, right, from the government's point of view through the CBN. And we are the ones facilitating these loans, and what we require of anybody that wants to delve into the agri business, whether you're a startup, you're just starting, you just finished school, and you want to go into the agricultural space, so to speak. You can come in as a startup, or if you're already there, if you're already a practitioner, let me put it that way, in agric and the value chain, you can apply for the loan. And what you do is the application is digital, is online, because we're supposed to cover everybody, every Nigerian. So to be able to reach every Nigerian, we have to go digital. So it's online, you apply, you register. Then when you register, you have to be trained by some of our service partners, who we call entrepreneurship development institutions, EDIs. I'll give you an example. SMIDAN, NDE, so these are the kind of people who say EDIs, they're those people that will teach you the business side of the agric business that you want to do. If it is production, if it is distribution, if it is packaging, like Mr. Wale Oshin hinted at. No, the AGSMIS is geared to give you that, but the EDIs have to teach you that, okay, this thing that you have, this thing that you want to do as a vocation, you can actually turn it into a business. And then when you learn that, you come back on to the platform and apply, because that process, that exercise is supposed to also teach you how to be able to manage funds, right? And if you borrow, you know that you're responsible for repayment. That's on the AGSMIS. Then on our own, we have the Agric Finance Facility, which is from our own books. The AGSMIS is from the CBN. The AFF is from our own books, is offered at commercial rates. The AGSMIS is offered at government rates, which is single digit. Now, the AFF, the good thing about it is that it's for, apart from being a startup, that's the only difference between that and the AGSMIS as the criteria, people that can access it, is that we are not, we want people that have already shown some kind of prowess in the business, right? We want people that understand agriculture, because agriculture is very, very, the agribusiness is very, very lucrative. It is also capital intensive, and it is also something that can go the wrong way very easily, right? So we have to make sure that the people that come to us actually understand what they are doing. That's why for now, we're considering only people that are already in the business. Now, when you apply for the loan and you get it, the loan is backed by the CBN Agri Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund, like Halima mentioned before. So that gives us some comfort as a bank. Now, the ACGSF is open to all banks, all deposit money banks, which is another name for commercial banks, and all microfinance banks that are supervised by the CBN. Now, if we give out monies to these people, there's a certain guarantee percentage that is guaranteed on the loan for the bank. So this encourages banks to give out monies, more monies, so to speak, to the general public in the agri space. And then what is in it? That's what's in it for the bank, but what's in it for the customer, for the person that has borrowed money from us, from any other bank. There's this element to the ACGSF, which is the interest drawback program, where if anybody has paid back as and when due, right? You're making your payments when you're supposed to be making your payments, and you clear off the loan within the tenure that is given. And the tenure is usually 1 year, or the gestation period plus sale time of your business. If you're into production and you're producing rice, within 3 months, the rice should have gotten to maturity. Then we'll just give you another 1 month to harvest and sell. We assume that within 4 months, you have finished everything that you need to do and you pay back the loan. Now, if you are able to do that within that time, there is an incentive by the CBN that you are given part of your interest. The interest that you already paid, you're given part of your interest back. That's the customer now. So if at the end of the day you borrowed 1 million and your interest is 100,000 and you paid off the loan with the 100,000 interest, the CBN is willing to give you up to 50%, of that interest that you paid back. So you get back 50,000. And so all this is in the bid to get people interested in agriculture. And I can tell you that since I started started interacting with people in the agri space, right, I found out that agriculture is the way to go. Agriculture is the way to go. So I think people should get more serious with agriculture. And the SMEs, everybody is linked to agriculture, so people should get serious with agriculture. That's it. So there are a lot of opportunities everywhere. The Anchor Borrowers Program, everybody knows the Anchor Borrowers Program. If you're a processor and you're looking for produce, like now paddy is so scarce, right? So it's kind of like a backward integration thing where you come and say, okay, I have a mill and I need paddy, but I don't have paddy. The government is willing to give you financing so that you can aggregate people, farmers, smallholder farmers, go into the hinterlands. Let's empower these people. Let them produce the paddy for you, give you the paddy, you pay them off, you process the rice, and then there's food security in the country. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank
I
you.
hope I didn't take too long.
No, that was good. That was good. Thank you
All right.
very much. I mean, that was very good. That was very good. I like Father just said that you want people that have shown some prowess, right? Because agribusiness is lucrative, but it can be quite capital intensive, and you want people that can be able to refund and repay their loans. So I'd like to move to Ms. Vera. Ms. Vera, you are the head of agribusiness and product development for Sterling Bank PLC, right? And from what Ms. Anoli just mentioned now, right? The ability to actually repay the loans and everything is very important. So let's ask you. So what particulars, right, should one have? What criteria should one meet before trying to raise funds?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. But before we go ahead, allow me to stand on existing protocols. I'm here representing the group head of agriculture and Sterling Bank Agricultural Finance, Dr. Olushola Opikonye. And I would even like to start with a quote from the current president of the African Development Bank. He says that what Africa does with agriculture is not only important for Africa, right, but it will shape the future of the world. And this is what has guided our actions in the agricultural sector. I think currently we have about 15% of our total loan portfolio as a bank dedicated to the agricultural sector. We financed over 200, we financed players, over 100,000 players, both smallholders, commercial enterprises, and corporate businesses to the tune of over 200 billion naira. From when the CBN mandated us to start the agri desk, I think sometime in 2011 till now. So agricultural lending for us is beyond business. It's about making impact, because we're actually passionate and particular about enriching the lives of smallholder businesses and all players in the agri value chain. And to do that, of course, we have different agricultural finance products. And some of the criteria we look out for are number one for us is majorly character. There are people you give out loans to, and from the get-go, they've made up their mind that, this is national cake. They won't want to pay, they won't want to repay the loan, right? Character is number one for us. Two, capacity. What have you done before? Do you have the capacity to undergo this project, right? How many hectares of land do you have? Do you have the capacity to repay these loans? Also, condition. What conditions? Can you meet the terms and conditions of the loan? For example, you provide account statements, you provide your bank statements, you provide some form of equity contribution. For you to take a loan, because they are shareholders' funds which must be paid back, we need to see some form of commitment from you. So we'll say, okay, we'll give you, if you want a loan of 100,000, for example, we say, okay, give us about 5 to 10% of that loan amount. Then why will fund you for the rest? So we want to see, okay, what is your contribution? Collateral is usually the last talked about, because we know for agribusinesses, most of them don't have collaterals apart from their farmlands and maybe the aggregators, maybe their silos or the commodities in the warehouses. So we really don't focus on collateral. What we try to do is to say, okay, how do we structure this transaction in a way that it will repay itself? It's a cash flow based lending, and it is self liquidating. My colleague Anuli just spoke about how if you need paddy, you can backward integrate, bring farmers together, and let them plant and you offtake. So for us, what we try to do, if you want a loan, we don't just give you the loan blindly. We say, you want a loan, what do you want to use it for? Do you want to plant maize? On how many hectares of land? Who is your offtaker? Because agric is demand driven. Currently, we suffer about close to 35 to 55% post-harvest loss. That's what the farmers suffer. So meaning for every 100 kg of tomatoes produced by a farmer, 55% is perished or are lost, either in transit, poor storage, and all of that. So we ask you, who will buy from you? So that off-taker sort of gives us comfort. If we have a reputable off-taker tied to your primary production activity, right? We don't need to stress you for collateral or any form of tangible collateral. Then we tie it with insurance. What happens if natural disaster occurs? What happens if flooding, pests and diseases and all of that? Do we have a fallback plan such that there's payouts for you, not just for the bank, but also for the farmer to go home with and start another production cycle? He's encouraged that way. Then guarantee. I think all my partners are here, from NESAL and the National Microfinance Bank. What happens if after all these conditions are met, you still can't repay the loans? Do we fall back to guarantees from the central bank or guarantees being provided by private companies? So those are the things we look out for when we try to structure a loan for clients. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Ms. Vera. Thank you very much. Now, I'll now be directing my next question to Mr. Wale Oshin. So my next question is to you. Now, so we're talking about financial institutions, we're talking about agriculture, finances in agriculture, we're talking about accessing these funds, we're talking about the steps to follow, right, in accessing these funds. So my question is this. So what are the, yes, people don't go out there to access these funds. So there could be some misconceptions, right? So what are the popular misconceptions that people actually have, right, that prevents them from actually raising funding from these institutions? I think your mic is on mute. Your mic is on mute, sir.
Sorry, yeah, I just realized that. Okay, thank you very much, Larry. So I will just speak across some of the comments of my other speakers have spoken about. Then I will address the question. Okay, now, so generally, some of the misconceptions which I will address from the side of the agri-business owner, if I can put it that way, right? And the typical one first is that it's difficult to access some of this, to access funding generally, right? And the issue of collateral, is also a misconception, right? And I will say that to go into agriculture, it's very important, to be clear in terms of what you want to do, right? I think Vera actually spoke to that earlier. You don't go into agriculture because you see some other persons, doing it, or because you heard that something is profitable, part of the value chain is profitable, right? You have to be very clear what needs do you actually want to solve for, right? And acquire the right type of knowledge, right? And also belong to associations, join associations, so that you can leverage on the knowledge of others for support, right? And so as you do this, it actually helps to address some of those misconceptions which I have mentioned earlier, right? And for us as an institution, Stanbic IBTC Bank, part of what we do in terms of helping to solve for knowledge, we actually have partnerships whereby we provide building interventions, for small business owners. In 2021, for instance, we trained over 3,000 small business owners, and we have a target to train over 5,000 in 2022. We have an existing partnership with the Lagos Business School, where we do this via virtual interventions, right? So this helps, to address the capacity issue, right? And in terms of concerns around collateral, we do, Vera and Halima, and as they've also mentioned, the role of NASAL. Today, I'll tell you that as an institution strongly focused on agribusiness, we have a 50 billion naira portfolio dedicated solely to NASAL backed transactions. And why did we do that? The key reason why we did that is to number one, demonstrate the importance which we um, which we've assigned to agriculture. Agriculture currently contributes about 26 or so percent to the country's GDP, right? And that is a huge number. And one of the key focus for agriculture in the country is also to help us address the challenges of FX in addition to meeting food security challenges in the country. Specifically, in terms of addressing FX to address import substitution issues. So by putting together this portfolio, what we have done is to layer it across the entire value chain. I did mention earlier that I used two terms, agriculture and agribusiness. Agriculture on one hand, speaks to the production of crops and livestock, while agribusiness, takes a view across all the entire interlinkages, from the agricultural production outputs, right? So we've aligned that objective with the NASA's objective, for instance, to solution, across the entire value chain, right from inputs to production to processing and marketing and distribution. So our own core focus as an institution, we focus strongly on the processing side of the value chain, right? And also work backwards, across their backward integration structures, right, to support and build up into marketing and distribution, right? In addressing the perceived misconception of access to funds. Once the knowledge is there, the guidance is provided, it actually makes it easier, right? And in addition to that, part of the key focus for us is also to encourage practitioners, right, to start with what they have from where they are at any point in time, right? Demonstrate your capacity, your capability, what you're able to do, right, before you reach out to the bank, and financing that we spoke about earlier. Also cuts across various areas, not just financial intervention from the bank. You also have intervention programs, by the Central Bank of Nigeria. You have angel investors. You can raise funds from family and friends as well. So that's so all of these structures, help, to address these misconceptions which are in the industry, including the pricing, of funds, for instance, through the CBN intervention funds, which grants single digits financing. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Wadeyoshi. That was quite comprehensive. So I just have I have a follow-up question. So you mentioned, okay, I think last year you trained over 3,000 business owners. There's a partnership with Lagos Business School, and there's also a 50 billion naira portfolio dedicated to Nessa back transactions. So
Yes.
a lot of things are happening, right, in the agrofinance, let me say, space. But let's say I'm the, let's say, tech or something else, right? I have zero clue of what's happening, but I want to go into agriculture. So how do I even? What's the step? What do I need to do to have access to information like this? Like I know that these opportunities are actually they are out there. So what do I need to do for, let me say, a layman who is in agriculture, wants to go into agriculture? Let's say as a professional or trying to, move into agriculture. So do I need to do, right? So even have access to this beautiful information, this training, this as funding, yeah.
Okay. So Well, in terms of access to information, I did mention earlier that it's important to join associations, right? Depending on what area of interest you have, right? You get information from associations. For those who are into primary production, they group themselves into cooperative groups. You have various commodities associations where information, is also given, and there's also information, on the internet, which helps you, at the initial stage to understand the um, areas of opportunity, right? And for instance, as a country, we have some focus commodities which the Central Bank of Nigeria, is currently focusing on. I did mention um, talk about import substitution earlier, which is simply a concept that helps the country, to produce what it needs internally, and to also produce those commodities which hitherto it's been importing and consuming foreign exchange for. That way it helps to retain much needed foreign exchange in Nigeria. Rice, for instance, is one of them, which I think Halima or Anuli spoke to earlier. There's been an increased focus on rice. Cassava is one of them. You know, um, Sorghum is equally one of them. Palm oil, is one of them. So maize, soybeans, which are typically important grains for animal feed production, for instance, and poultry value chain, right? So all of these commodities which I've mentioned, they do have associations either at the community level, state or federal level, where information is also provided. I also recall that Halima talked about some enterprise development centers, where uh, anybody who wants to access those intervention funds dedicated to MSMEs, will go for some training, for a few months, right, to gather knowledge, and develop themselves, get industry information before they will now be able to come in and apply, for those loans. And this EDCs are actually spread across the country, where this information or capacity development programs are provided. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. So I can see we have Mr. Obaru back. Good to have you. Okay, so now we're going to go on a break. We're going to get a short break.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Damilara. How are you?
Fine, I'm good. Excited to see you. So we have Mr. Obaru back on our panel. He is the DGM of Bank of Industry. You're
Sorry,
welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, great to see you. So we're going to go on a short break, and we'll be back to entertain more questions. I'd like to say that this session. All right, great. Thank you. Thank God. I'd like to say that this session is being streamed on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll be entertaining questions from members of the audience. All right, so we can now go on our short break. So my next question goes to Mr. Alvaro. All right, good to see you again. And so this is my question, right? So we're having a lot of conversation, right, surrounding financing agriculture. My question is this: what does one have to do, right? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to increase my chances of getting funding from my agricultural initiative? Okay, I think your mic is on mute. Okay. All right. So my question is what do I need to do to increase my chances of getting access to funding? Okay, I think it's experiencing some technical
Definitely.
challenge. Can you hear me, Mr. Barrow?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this unique for this opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, although the network is a bit poor, so your voice is the audio is
Can you
cracking
hear
up.
me, Damilola?
Yeah, I can hear you. The audio is a bit poor, so I couldn't hear you very well. But I can hear you. Okay. So while Mr. Barrow tried to resolve his internet, my next question goes to Miss Alima. Miss Alima, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this session is very technical, very detailed. So I have another technical question. So how long does it take, right? The process, right, on average, how long does it take to raise funds, and how can one make it faster?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear? Yes, great.
Okay, ours actually is to for them to access our funds. So my colleague Miss Anuli already discussed some processes. You know, we have to do our own internal processes when you apply online. We have to do our own checks, and then you're called for interviews depending on the type of loan you want. And then, we have the intervention products too. So for different intervention products, there are processes that are involved. Like for the Aximis, you have to fill it online. You have to undergo training, like my colleague Ms. Anuli mentioned, and we have EDIs that give you the training. After the training, you submit your business plan, which is uploaded, and based on that, you're called for assessment, and then you're either given the loan or not. So there are different types of loans and different processes. But like I said, Ms. Anuli can still go through the nitty gritty of the technicalities of accessing each loan. And you have our website too, the NMF, the products there, and all the processes outlined there for you to, as a guide for you to follow. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm not directing the next question to Miss Anuli. So I'll just say, just give us an example of a commonly assessed loan, since there are several types of loans to assess. So tell us like I know you mentioned the other time about one of the EDIs such as this median and ND. So this whole process, right, on average for the commonly assessed loan, how long does it take?
Okay, thanks. Halima has fielded that question because there's no hard and fast rule to providing a response to that. Okay, we've mentioned the different products. Now there are documents required, there are criteria to be met, and all. So it actually depends on the speed of the customer to provide all that we need to be able to process the loan. So let's assume that a customer comes in and he is ready. And they are usually ready because they are already in that business. So when we're asking for information, they already have it. They already understand what we're asking for, and they understand where we're going and why we're asking those questions. So if the person is able to provide all this information as and when we ask for them, within a space of 1 month, within a space of 1 month. So between 2 weeks and 1 month, depends on the product, because for the programs of the CBN, the buck doesn't just stop on our table. We still have to get back to the CBN to get the necessary approvals and the funding and the commensurate funding for the project. So that's why I was saying 1 month. But if it is within us, like our own product, the agri finance facility, sorry, 2 weeks, we're good to go.
2 weeks, we're good to go.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. So let's go on another break. Thank you very much. All right. So my next question goes to Ms. Vera. Now, our funds. So, what are the common challenges you that they keep? These challenges just keep repeating themselves. They just keep coming back that people face. And you think has to be these challenges have to be brought to the awareness of the public so that they can resolve these challenges. So, what are the common challenges that people face when assessing the agricultural initiatives?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I would like to address that with ways you can access the loan. Because oftentimes when people hear that, okay, we have loans either from CBN, intervention funds, or from partnership with an NGO, right, or even the bank's loan, they think, okay, there's free money, right? They are not even able to properly articulate their business ideas, right? Or even come up with a simple business plan. I think Alima mentioned the submission of a business plan for you to be eligible. So they just come to us to say they need loan. What exactly do you need it for? It's always a challenge. How do you intend to repay back? You really don't understand. Do you need moratorium? Do you need grace period? And how long will it take for your business to start, generating enough cash to repay the loans? Most of them don't know. So number one, I think one is the knowledge gap, and two is the documentation issue. People are they really don't want to fill forms. They just want to receive the alert in their account. So documentation is usually an issue. And then when then the pricing, you say, the interest rate is too high and all of that. But what profit? What's your profit margin for your business, right? And how many times can you generate that percentage return on investment? So let's see if we can match it. Because, for example, if you have a loan, it's always good to have access to finance to scale up your business, because it's the same time that you used to produce 1,000 birds, poultry birds. That's the same effort and time you used to produce 2,000 birds. So imagine if you're able to get funding for the additional 1,000, you're making double the profit. So most of the time, you're like, the interest rate is too high. But if you get that funding, you double your profit margins, right? And you should even be able to repay the loan. And thank God there are interest rebates from the central bank and from NESAL, if you're able to repay as at when due. All right, so to be able to access funding easily, you need to have a good business pitch. When you're submitting your business plan, you should communicate what you do, who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it, what problem you're solving. Your business plan is just like your CV or resume if you're applying for a job. So that's how your business plan is. It just tells the financier everything about you and your business and how you want them to help you. All right. So number one, you have a good sales pitch. Number two, you come up with a workable or scalable business plan. We have so many institutes, like my colleague Wale mentioned, that can train you on how to come up with a good business plan, or even develop a business model canvas. Right. Then you think about the right funding option. If you want to go into agriculture because you hear that's the wave of the town or the rave of the town, you need to say, okay, where do I get my funding from? Thankfully, Wally mentioned that there are different funding sources, from family and friends, angel investors, from grants, from intervention like the CBN, the NESA, Bank of Industry. Those ones are able to give you soft loans and all of that for startup businesses. All right, then angel, of course, angel investors, venture capitalists. If you have a very workable business pitch, they are able to give you funding. So you determine, where do I want to get my funds from, or what life cycle is my business in? Am I just starting up? Am I in the growth cycle? And all of that. Then, secondly, you determine what problem does your business want to solve. People just want to go into farming. They've not identified the niche or a problem that they want to solve, because everybody's going into it. I hear that cucumber is what is making money. I want to go into it. Who needs the cucumber that you want to provide? What problem are you solving? Is there a demand for cucumber, or because you just heard that it grows quickly and all of that, and you want to go into it? So determine what problem, because if you solve problem, then definitely people always value you if you are a problem solver. And you have to identify, okay, what's the source of revenue from the business? How will I start generating revenue, and how soon, so that I can know how to repay the loan? Then lastly, I always mention the challenges we have is that people don't see loans as loans. They think it's grant, or as in, if it's loan from commercial bank, they think it's grant and not to be repaid. You have to know that when you collect a loan from a bank, you have to think of ways to pay it. And it's not like sometimes we usually like to sit on request, because you're asking annually what's the processing time. Sometimes we have to go back and forth with these customers because their documentation is not right. Their business plan, they didn't do it very well. They didn't submit the requisite documents and all of that. So we have to go back and forth with them until they do the right thing. And of course, because we don't want them to, when we give them the money, they go and get a new car, and start showing off in town that, yes, I'm the next big boy that just arrived. So you need to determine and avoid in your heart that you will not misuse, you will not misuse and the funds. So that's where I talked about character, which is key in lending. So thank you very much. So those are the challenges for us as a bank. We usually have to grapple with documentation issues, knowledge gap, and all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vera. Thank you. So I like what you said. We don't want to fill forms. You just want to receive a lot. And that's true. I think there's actually a fear of filling forms. So the people have it, but the opportunity of getting of accessing funds for your business, for your agribusiness is there. I think we should just go there. And like what you said, right? You need a good sales pitch, in the workable business plan, right? Then you have to choose the right funding option. And we have several of them. We have the ones from CBN, stores, venture capitalists. They also have to figure out what problem the business want to solve. Don't just go into agribusiness because someone's is into tomato farming today, or what problem are you really solving into agribusiness? They don't have a repayment plan. There's a loan. This money, you're not being dashed. Great. So let's go now. Before we go on break, I'd like to say that we are being streamed online, right? We're live, and we are collecting questions from the audience, and we're going to be asking these questions very soon. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. All right, Mr. Wale Oshin, are you there? I'd like to ask a question. Not really a question per se.
Yes,
Uh,
Damilare, I'm here.
it's going to be a comment, your
Okay.
insight, right? Because even as you're asking questions, sometimes we overlook some certain things that I also have to discuss, in this session. And let's think about it. This is a great, how do I say it now? They each privilege to have or this panelist, right? We have who can answer the questions. I want to ensure that this session is really packed and all information are actually condensed. Nothing is missed. So, what insights, what tip, what thing do you think we've not discussed today that you would like to share right now, especially for those who are looking, let me say, first time agribusiness people, right? Those are going to agribusiness for the first time, right? So, what important tip do you really have for them, especially when it comes to areas of finance?
Okay, I think it should be more like, if you permit me, what I would like to emphasize,
Yes.
right? Um, a few things. Number one is that you need to have clarity on what's your problem you're solving for. You don't go into agriculture because you see somebody else doing it, right? And one of the key thing, the first thing you need to, apart from identifying what problem you want to solve, you need to also be clear what your market is. You know, you don't, for instance, go to start producing cassava because you hear that, oh, cassava is also a focus crop in the country. You hear that, oh, people buy used starch, right? Now, when you harvest cassava, you have a short window period, 24 to 72 hours, within which, if it remains on ground after harvest, it begins to deteriorate, right? So you need to have your market clearly identified, know where you're taking it to. So you don't produce on a speculative basis. It has to be demand led, focused production. Then, secondly, relating to that, take for instance somebody deciding he wants to set up a palm plantation. So imagine a situation where somebody has been in paid employment or civil service. He retires and he now decides at that time that, oh, palm oil is profitable in Nigeria. So maybe at 60 years old, he now decides he wants to go and start, producing palm. So at what point, is he going to see it through because it has a long gestation period? Palm, for instance, does not give you optimum production until about maybe 7 to 10 years, right? Now there are varieties that begin to produce early now, but in terms of optimum production, it takes quite some time. And at that age also, do you have the energy, right? To go into this sector. So those are very important things. Then another one that resonates, which I like to emphasize also, is the misconception of funds, excuse me, financing for agriculture that is free money, most especially the ones that related to, the intervention funds, right? It's funds that has to be paid back. And the purpose of those funds, especially for producers at the smallholder level, is actually to bring them out of poverty, to help them to scale up, right? You're producing 1 hectare today. In the next 1 year, while you produce successfully, you plow back your earnings, you're expected to increase and scale up, the hectareage which you're producing. So, and knowledge is also very important. You can't overemphasize knowledge. You can't give what you don't have. You can't just go blindly into what you don't know, right? You need to have the knowledge, be willing to put in the work to acquire the right type of knowledge to support what you want to do. So it's only at that time that you will be successful at what you're doing. Because when it comes to financing, these are the key things which the lenders, will look at, be it from commercial or formal or informal form of lending. you know these are very key things, and character also was emphasized by Vera. Even when you're looking at informal lending, maybe you're looking at intra-value chain lending, for instance. I'm a producer. I meet somebody who supplies inputs, right? Who sometimes extends credits to producers. If I have not, positioned myself in a manner that um, credibility has been established, you don't get those sort of credit lines, which comes at zero cost. to you to support that business. So, like I said, it's in the area of just emphasizing some of the salient points, which have been mentioned earlier. Thank you, Damilare.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I like the direction this conversation is going. I mean, it started heavily technical, and I want it to be to be lighter, so everybody can participate. So my next question goes to Miss Alima, right? So now, now people don't go for funding because one reason, right? And I'm assuming the reason because they are afraid of rejection. Because the issue approach is spray and pray, right? There's an opportunity to apply for a loan, right? And you can and getting it. But of course, because of this conversation, we've learned that there's actually a procedure. There are things you have to have, uh, you have to fill the knowledge gap. There are documents you have to, produce. You have to have a workable business plan. Everything has to be structured. So even after seeing all these things, right, and our goal is to demystify access to funding in agribusiness. So the common are the common reasons why some applications, right, are rejected, right? So what do you think are some of the reasons why some applications are rejected for funding?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you for this question. The issue is our intervention a high volume and there's high risk. So because the only criteria for most of the intervention funds are actually high. So once you have a BVN and you don't have any bad credits, you have a higher probability of accessing the have to undergo the application process. Once you do that and your application is successful in the funds, but not everyone can access the intervention funds because of the amount we got. For every intervention fund, we can't exceed a certain amount. So once we reach that cap, we have to wait for that disbursing. And like my colleague mentioned, Ms. Anuli, it is not just the intervention funds does not just stay here in National Microfinance Bank. It has to go through CBN for even if we do our own part, we have to submit the list to CBN for those that have all the criteria. The BVN is right, no bad credit. Then CBN gives the final approval for disbursement, and they can take a range like, okay, we can only disburse certain numbers, and this is what we have to do. Process. What you call it, your funds being disbursed, you have to wait because the traffic is so high. You can imagine everyone, the only criteria is BVN. And as long as you don't have a bad credit, you can access the intervention funds. But for the unbalanced sheet products, there's is totally different from the intervention product. So there are processes. There's the assessment which is being done internally and a lot of requirements there, but the rates are competitive at market rate. So there are two products. So whichever one you find yourself that you want to access has its own processes, and intervention funds can be the duration might be longer than what you might expect because everyone can access it. Have I
Okay.
answered your
Yes,
question?
it did. Yes, it did. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mhm.
See, Mr. Obaro is back.
Yes, I'm back. I've been listening. Sorry, the network is a bit troublesome where I am. Sorry. Yes.
I'd still like to hear one or two things from you. So I'll mention this since you've been listening, right? So what one thing would you like to emphasize, right, in this process of assessing uh, funding or funds in
Well, thank you. Good morning. I'm sorry that I've not been able to make my contribution because of the network. But one critical factor is the issue of knowledge. Knowledge and skill is a number one element in driving any initiative, either in private sector. So it's critical that those who want to go into business must first of all before you venture into what you want to do. So strictly talking about financing, which is the first to hone their skills and develop their businesses in Nigeria, fundamental problem is finance. So as a business person who wants to go into agriculture or agro processing, you need to acquaint yourself with the arrays of options available in seeking funding, either short term, whether medium term or long term. Whether you want to take from friends, whether you are seeking grants, whether you are seeking money from a microfinance bank and there are terms and conditions, from a commercial bank, there are terms and conditions, there are tenor issues, or from a DFI, like Bank of Industry, that offers you medium to long-term facilities, single-digit possibilities of interest rates, and of course, offering you that unique advantage of a moratorium period by which you are not expected to repay the principal, but basically service what facility you've given, before you have enough commercial capacity to repay the facility. So it's important that you must look at the options available. In fact, even if you look at the various intervention schemes available, you need to have a knowledge of all of them to enable you to take a very good decision, because financing must be bespoke. It must be related to the business you want to do, looking at your market, looking at your cash flow, looking at the dynamics of the market and the risk involved in the business, how long it's going to take you to repair the facility, your computer analysis, the mode of production you want to apply in your processing facilities. Everything must go together. And so a liner is skills, knowledge and skill is a major area that people need to consider. The other area I also want to mention is that let's go plan for the long run. So you do not think of starting a business, and of course the business, you abandon the business to go and do politics, or you abandon the business to go and another business. So in the setup, you must think of a business to outlive you as a person. So for BUI, what we do is that we do not give money to individuals. We emphasize the fact that you must incorporate your business. So you must have a registered company, either as a limited liability company or as an enterprise with proper corporate governance. So we preach that, we teach it, separate your financing from the business financing, so that all revenue from the business will go to a business account, and all your expenses, all your investment, future investments or capital expenditures should also run through that account. So if we are giving facility to you, we are going to move that money to your account if it's a working capital requirement. But if it's a term loan that involves equipment financing, we normally pay straight to the supplier to avoid issue of diversion. So we pay to a supplier, the supplier will supply the equipment, you confirm the equipment is in order, the supplier will work with you and the engineers and commission the project. We will visit the person, take adequate photograph, do a detailed report to management. On the strength of that, we make payments available to the supplier. So I think that in addition to what everybody has said, it's important that we emphasize knowledge sharing, skills acquisition, capacity development, and of course, understanding the options available in seeking financing to enable you apply the right finance required because of the kind of business you are into. Because if you want to do a business where the margins are very, very thin, if you go and seek funding where the cost of financing is very, very high, it's going to eat into your profit. You may not be able to survive either in the short run or in the long run. But if you come and look at the patient capital funding, where you take money from a DFI that offers the opportunity to take that facility for 5 years and also offers a single-digit interest rate, then your repayment becomes very minimal. You can manage it and go through the initial processes to ensure that your business survives in the short run, in the middle term, and prepare for a long run. This will be my remark for now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Good to actually have those insights from you. So, thank you. Wow, and from what I just learned from that is that And from what I also learned from all the panelists here is that the money is there, right? The funds are there. But what's lacking? The knowledge, right? Skills, right? We need to acquire knowledge, right? Acquire the skills, then also develop our capacity, right? To truly, when you get the funds, right, it's really able to implement these funds in achieving your business goals. So, Ms. Vera, so over to you. So, what critical insights would you like to emphasize, right, before we wrap up this session? Okay, camera is not on. Okay, Ms. Vera, can you hear me? Okay, I think we should just go on a short break. All right, Ms. Vera, you're back.
All right, sincere apologies about that. Okay, so final insights. Agriculture is not just is beyond. We know agric is a science, right? But agribusiness is positioning, agric or making money out of the science, and you need to understand that there are different dynamics, to be able to make money out of, the science. I would also love to quote Akinwumi Adesina. He says that if you want to be a billionaire, right, the future of the agricultural sector is such that it will produce its next billionaires in the coming years. And if you want to be a billionaire, that's the sector you should play in. However, not forgetting that there are risks. Remember, agric is a science. There are risks inherent in the business. We need to find a way to dimension those risks. Do you want to take some of the risks? Do you want to transfer the risks? After all this have been done, then you can now properly, and that's where we always talk about knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Get all the knowledge you require for the business. Who do you need to ask questions? Do you also need to just get money from your friends and family, start up small, then later go ahead and incorporate your business, like Mr. Obaro said? You need to just find a way, identify the problem you want to solve, who you want to get money from, how do you want the business to outlive you? What is your goal? What is your plan? How resilient would you be? If you fail, would you just give up? No, right? So you need to always, determine what you want to do, because of course the future of any business, lies in the success, of you and your team. So you need to always do that. I also love to quote this or read from the statistics, which is there are several reasons why business fail. I think majority of the reasons why business fail is that some of them they run out of funding. Some of them are out competed. They run out of business because of competition. Um, excuse me. Some of them also are not able to innovate. They are not able to innovate. Now we have, a couple of, I think we're sort of like in the digital technology era, where you see people using drones, to power their farms, drones to plant, drones to apply fertilizer and all of those other things. So you have to constantly innovate. You can't continue to do things the way you used to do and expect a different result, right? Some people, because market was not, they didn't have their product wasn't in demand, so they ran out of business, right? Some also have flawed business model. Remember, I talked about business model canvas. Then some also regulatory or legal challenges. But thankfully, I think agriculture has enjoyed favorable policies and from the federal government. Some people didn't have the right team. I think about 14% of people don't have the right team, and that's why they fail, right? Poor products, disharmony among team members, the pivot gone wrong. Some people got burnt out or lack passion to continue. So you have to be resolute in your mind to say, okay, agric is profitable, you are going to be able to feed people, because I think the population of people will grow to about of the world will go to about 9 billion in 2050. So you have to position yourself to be able to add value or feed people, ensure food security and all of that. But of course, you must consider what it takes. It's really not easy. But of course, what is easy, right? So it's up to you to win. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So our technical team has been collecting, been collecting some questions from the audience, and our panelists will answer the questions now. So can I have some of these questions on the screen? Okay. So this question is directed to Mr. Barrow, from Oluwaseun Ayola Mikonle. So he said that, okay, but has been discovered that the cost of equipment supplied is always higher in price than the one that the business owner maybe gets directly. Why is it so? So I hope this question is clear, Mr. Obaro.
No, I didn't hear you. Please take it again. What did you say?
Okay, so it says from this question from Mr. Oluwaseun Ayola Omikunle. So he said,
Okay.
but it has been discovered that the cost of equipment supplied is always higher in price than the one that the business owner, right, gets directly. Why is this so?
No, that is not correct. Let me tell you the way it works. We don't get involved in the process. It's not as if we are not suppliers, we are not the equipment, but that's on our business. Our business is fine funding. What we try to avoid is diversion. So you do everything as it is. You go and go get a supplier. You bring the invoice to us. We are always saying that at the point of payment, we're not going to move the money to your account to enable you pay the supplier. We pay directly to the supplier. So the supplier supply you. So your contract between yourself and the supplier remains as it is. We're not involved. Okay? But the process is that we'll give a letter what are taken to the supplier that supply Mr. Sheung this equipment to do his bakery business or his cassava processing business. Once you supply the equipment and we confirm their supply, and Sheung confirms to me that the equipment is what he wants and the equipment is in order in line with this commercial contract with you, we will pay Sheung's supplier the money directly. So it's the same process. We're not getting involved in pricing or negotiation, but what we are saying, because of experience, we don't want to give you the money and then one or two things happen, you dip into the money and you've been able to buy the equipment again. So the equipment comes to you, that's what you want. We pay directly to the equipment supplier. So in such a way, we are guaranteed that if you say you want to do garri processing, the machine that you need for that garri processing is delivered to your factory. So what you then need now, maybe some little cash to buy cassava. We can now move that cash to your account. So because of that process, diversion is removed. The business that I say you want to do that we're financing is actually implemented. Then the expected jobs we created are actually done. The required capacity we need, the skills to be acquired in that process are actually achieved. So the GDP of the country grows. And if we do that across the network, then Nigeria will be on its way to industrialization and self-sufficiency and food security. Fundamentally to that is that once that business is implemented as expected, then more jobs will be created. If more jobs are created, then more IGR will be created by the state where that business is located. So it's a long value chain that are all positive. So the skills are acquired, business are established properly, jobs are created, revenues are generated, incomes are paid, wealth is created, taxes are paid. With that money, government does more infrastructure. So it's a win-win situation. And that is why we operate in that unique model. Because from experience, when you give somebody money, I want to buy a generator for my business, 5 million naira. I credit 5 million to your account. Then you just draw 100,000 for that for whatever reason. You cannot buy that generator. So instead of moving the money to you, we say, generator supplier, supply this man generator in line with your agreement. We will pay you when you supply to him. And the man confirmed to me that the generator he wanted from me had been supplied in the right quality, in the right order. So we're not interfering in your pricing or negotiation between you and your supplier. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. So let's take one more question. This Mr. Oludare Odusanya. So is there a recognized and regulated platform or portal where investors can access the right business to support? This is a very good question. So,
It's not clear. The right word?
okay, is there a recognized and regulated platform or portal where investors can access the right business to support? I think
The question is not clear.
It's not clear.
Is he talking about to access the right funding mix,
No, to support
or to look at the kind of business that you want to do?
Okay, so let me paraphrase this question. So the Mr. Ludare here is saying that he has some money, says let's say agribusinesses, right, that need funding so he can support these businesses.
Well, for BOI, we are not really directly involved in the primary agricultural space. We are more or less involved in value addition, which is agro processing, because we are a bank that is established by CBN and the government to promote industrialization. So our emphasis is on value addition, and the value addition in terms of production capacity.
Okay.
You know,
right,
so it's value, that is the space we focus on. But we can also support integrated operation that moves from primary agriculture to production. So for instance, a company like Baba Ghana, you know, who can aggregate farmers across the country, we support in bulk. Because what will then happen is that you are into farming, okay, which becomes your raw material source. And you product from that raw material operation, you convert it into your production. So if it's an integrated operation, which comes from primary to secondary before it hits the market, yes, we can also take that. So we're looking at it, the entire value chain. So for instance, if you take cassava, we can support you if your project, you say you want to produce this number of tons or kilograms of gari every year in order to support this market. And in order to do that, you will need constant supply of raw materials. So you don't backward integration to have your own farm. So that the farm you have, you get raw materials from there, plus other agro schemes that you organize in that community. So whatever they farm in terms of cassava, you buy from them into your gari or your industrial starch production process. So we buy you the equipment for the industrial starch, we buy you those technology, and we can also support you instead of seedlings, you know, or stems for you to do that cassava. But if you strictly come say you want to do cassava, we may not be able to do that for you. But if you want to do integrated operation or strictly focus on value addition, that is where BOI comes into play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So it has been an amazing session, really, and you can tell that there's still power, right, in our panelists. They still want to share more insights. They still want to share information, and it just shows that the not only is there the access to funding, right, the knowledge, right, is out there, right, and all you have to do, right, is just I'm talking to our audience, right, all you have to do is just put yourself out there, right, acquire the skills, go for the knowledge, right, and like one of our parents mentioned, right, don't be afraid of filling forms, right, because at the end you're going to get the alert. And we all want to succeed. We all want you to succeed because we believe that agriculture has a lot to offer, right? The national economy. So I'd love to continue with this session, but we have to come to an end. And this is the Business of Agriculture Masterclass 2.0. And that is it. Technical. Thank you very much to our panelists. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key, there's treasure